Far from Earth, in a quiet corner of space, something strange happened. A small human station floated around a dying star, barely working. It was old, forgotten, and no one really cared about it anymore. Only one person worked there full-time: Luke Carter, a young technician who had always wanted to explore space, but instead of flying great ships, Luke spent his days fixing broken antennas and checking dusty computers. That day, Luke was drinking coffee and staring at the endless black sky. Suddenly, a red light blinked on his control panel. He leaned forward, confused. It wasn't just a regular alert. This one hadn't appeared in over 20 years. "Distress signal received," the screen said. Luke blinked, then tapped a few keys. The message was old and damaged, full of static, and spoken in a strange voice. An alien voice. He turned up the volume, and the broken message played again. "To anyone, please help. Coordinates. They are coming. All is lost. Please, humans, help us." Luke felt a chill go down his spine. He checked the coordinates. The message came from a place deep in the dark expanse, a place no human ship had ever gone. Most people believed it was haunted or cursed. Luke didn't know what to do, but he followed protocol and sent the recording straight to Earth Command. His hands were shaking as he pressed transmit. Even though he didn't understand it fully, he knew something big had just started. Thousands of miles away, at Earth Command, the signal landed on the desk of Admiral Nina Brooks. She had seen war, peace, and everything in between, but nothing made her feel like this. She listened to the message 4 times, each time more carefully than the last. She called in her top staff and asked, "Is this real?" The room fell silent. "Yes, Admiral," one officer said. "It's genuine." "And the voice?" she asked. "Not human. Definitely alien." The Admiral leaned back in her chair, thinking. The galaxy was a cold place. Other alien species had always looked down on humans, calling them young and reckless. Most of the Galactic Council avoided problems in the dark expanse. That place had swallowed entire fleets without a trace. But someone out there, some unknown race, had called out to humans for help, not the Council, not the older races, but humans. Admiral Brooks stood up, her voice steady. "Prepare the HS Resolute full crew." Her officers stared at her, stunned. "You're sending a warship?" One asked. "I'm sending a message," she replied, "that humanity does not ignore a cry for help." The order shocked everyone. News spread fast across Earth and the colonies. An alien distress call had been heard, and humans were the only ones answering. The HS Resolute was not a regular ship. It was one of Earth's newest battle cruisers, strong, fast, and loaded with advanced tech. It could handle storms, asteroid fields, and even enemy fire, but no one had expected it to be used for this. Back at the outpost, Luke Carter received a message. "Good work, technician," it said. "You may have saved more lives than you know." He sat there, staring at the stars, wondering who had sent that message, and if it was already too late for them. Meanwhile, on alien worlds far from Earth, unknown creatures watched the humans' response with surprise. They had expected silence, but humanity had spoken, and that single decision, by a lone technician and a brave admiral, was about to shake the galaxy. The stars didn't know it yet, but change was coming, and it all started with a forgotten signal, a whisper in the dark. And the humans who chose to answer it, Captain Derek Moore, sat alone in a quiet room, staring at the stars outside the window. He was retired now, living on a small moon base near Mars. His days of war, fire, and command were behind him, or so he thought. Then one morning, a message arrived, short and cold. "You are being recalled to duty. Report to Earth Command. Urgent." Derek didn't smile, didn't frown. He just stood up and got ready. He knew deep inside something big was happening, and if they were calling him back after 5 years of silence, it meant trouble on Earth. Admiral Nina Brooks was waiting, pacing across the strategy room, when Derek entered. Her eyes locked on his, still breathing. "I see," she said dryly. Barely, he replied, his voice low and calm. Then, without wasting time, she handed him a datapad. He watched the shaky recording of the alien distress call, the same one Luke Carter had discovered after it ended. The room fell silent again. So, they're calling us, Derek said softly. They are, Nina nodded. And we're the only ones who answered. She explained the mission. A journey beyond the known map, into a part of the galaxy no one dared to go, to find out who sent the message. And what threat had destroyed their world. Derek didn't hesitate. I'll take the Resolute, he said. No, she corrected him. You'll command the Resolute. Derek raised his eyebrows. Surprised, it wasn't just a ride. He was leading the entire operation. And the first thing he needed was a crew. He started choosing names, people he trusted, people he had fought beside. But Earth Command added one name without asking. Elena Brooks, the Admiral's daughter. She was young, smart, and a genius in alien languages, but she was also someone Derek had trained years ago and let go. She was bold, brave, and not afraid to challenge orders. When they met again in the ship's docking bay, it was tense. You requested me? She asked, arms crossed. No, Derek said, your mother did. I'll still get the job done, Elena said coldly. I know you will, he replied, turning away. The HSS Resolute sat on the launch platform like a sleeping giant. It was beautiful silver and dark blue hull, sleek lines, heavy armor, and glowing engines. Inside, it held powerful railguns, shield arrays, and advanced scanners. It wasn't just a warship, it was a message, a symbol of Earth's strength. The crew began to arrive, each one handpicked from different parts of Earth and its colonies. There was Kara, a fast-talking Martian engineer who once repaired a broken cruiser in zero gravity using only magnets and duct tape. Benji, a young pilot from New Texas who could fly anything with wings or thrusters. Raj, a doctor from Luna with calm hands and a sharp brain. Mia, a weapons officer who used to train military cadets and could shoot the wings off a fly. They came from different worlds, different pasts, but all ready for one goal: answer the call. Training began quickly. The ship needed to be checked, tested, and prepared. The mission was dangerous. If anything went wrong out there, help would be weeks away, maybe more. So Derek drilled them hard, pushed them like soldiers preparing for war. Some crew members whispered, "Why are we doing this? Helping strangers?" Others believed it was just another military mission. But Elena kept reminding them, these aliens didn't just send a signal into space. They sent it to us, to humans, by name. And that made the mission personal as launch day neared. The ship buzzed with energy. Final systems were tested, weapons loaded, fuel tanks filled. The Resolute stood ready on the launch ramp, glowing under the hangar lights. Derek walked through the corridors one last time before takeoff, checking the crew. He stopped outside the main communication room, where Elena sat listening to the alien message again and again. You planning to memorize every breath in that recording? He asked. Maybe, she replied. There's something in the background. A rhythm, like a countdown or warning. Derek nodded slowly. Let's hope we find out before it's too late, he said. When the countdown finally started, the crew strapped into their seats. The engines roared, shaking the entire station, and then, with a blast of light, the Resolute left Earth behind, into the unknown, into danger, into the silence beyond the stars. In the darkness, far ahead of them, something ancient stirred, something that had noticed the human ship the moment it left orbit. It didn't speak, didn't think like others, but it watched and waited. Back on Earth, people stared at their screens as news spread. Humanity answers an alien cry for help. Some laughed, some cried, some prayed, but no one could look away. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was crossing the stars to protect someone else. The galaxy had expected silence from Earth, but what it got was the Resolute, and with it came a message louder than any words. We are human, and we do not turn away. The darkness outside the ship was thick, silent, and endless. The HS Resolute had left all known space behind. The stars looked different here, dimmer, scattered, and far more distant. No other human ship had come this far, not even probes. Captain Derek Moore stood on the bridge, staring at the screen, his arms crossed. Something about this place made even the air feel heavier. "We're not alone out here," he muttered. But there was nothing on the scanners, no ships, no signals, not even space debris. Just the slow drift of dead stars and clouds of cosmic dust. The crew worked quietly, the usual jokes and laughter missing. Even Kara, the loud Martian engineer, was focused and serious. Everyone could feel it, the calm before something terrible. And they didn't know what was coming. After 3 days of deep space travel, they reached the coordinates from the distress call. As soon as they arrived, the ship's sensors began acting strangely. Alarms buzzed, screens glitched, and strange static played through the comms. "What is that?" asked Benji, the pilot. Elena leaned closer to the screen, listening. "It's not just noise. It's a repeating pattern," she said softly. "Like a broken song." They followed the signal trail to a thick cloud of space dust, dark and swirling like a storm. Inside the cloud, something huge floated silently. As the ship got closer, they realized it was the remains of a massive alien vessel. It had been torn apart, holes in its hull, scorch marks from weapons, and broken pieces drifting everywhere. "Life signs?" Captain Moore asked. Elena scanned the wreck, her fingers shaking slightly. "1, maybe 2, very faint," she replied. Moore nodded. "Prepare a boarding team." A small shuttle launched from the Resolute and entered the wreck slowly. Inside the alien ship, the air was thin and cold. Walls were covered in strange symbols and dried green-blue blood. The crew moved carefully, weapons ready, flashlights cutting through the darkness. At last, they found a sealed room, its door scratched and burned. Inside was a small group of creatures, thin, tall, with glowing blue eyes and smooth, pale skin. Their faces were filled with fear, but they didn't run. They were too weak to move. Elena stepped forward, lowering her weapon. She spoke softly, using what she had learned from the message. The tallest of the creatures responded weakly. Its voice was like a whisper of wind through dry leaves. "We are Tayari," it said. "They came shadows without name." Silence followed. They brought the survivors aboard the Resolute and gave them medical care. Dr. Raj worked nonstop, trying to save the ones who were still breathing. One of the younger Tayari, no more than a child, held onto Elena's sleeve and wouldn't let go. She sat beside the alien girl, brushing hair from her eyes. "You're safe now," Elena whispered. "We're here, back on the bridge." Captain Moore and the officers listened to what the Tayari had to say. Their words sent chills down everyone's spine. A new threat had appeared in the galaxy, one no one had ever seen or understood. The Tayari called it the Silence. The Silence didn't talk, didn't send warnings, didn't negotiate. It just arrived, and when it came, everything stopped. Machines shut down, memory wiped, voices erased, whole cities vanished in seconds. The Tayari ship was part of a refugee fleet, 12 ships fleeing from the Silence, but only this one had escaped. Long enough to send a message, and now even that message might have come too late. Captain Moore stared at the stars ahead of them. "We can't turn back now," he said. "These people risked everything just to beg for help." His voice was heavy but firm. "If we don't stand with them, who will?" Some officers looked uncertain. "We're just one ship," said Mia, the weapons officer. "We might be walking into a war we don't understand." "That's true," Moore nodded. "But when Earth needed help, no one came. Maybe it's time someone did." Later that night, as the crew rested, a strange event occurred. A silent alarm triggered across the Resolute. An unknown signal was detected. No origin, no sender, just cold data. Repeating, Elena rushed to the comms room, heart pounding. "It's the same pattern, but different tone," she said. Then she paused, staring at the screen. It's watching us. Captain Moore ordered the ship's shields up and weapons ready. Whatever sent that message knows we're here, he said, but we're not leaving. In that moment, everyone on the Resolute understood they were now part of something much bigger than themselves. They weren't just exploring. They were the first line of defense. The Tayari had given them a warning and a choice, and humanity had made its choice. Not to run, not to hide, but to stand. The galaxy still didn't know it yet, but the silence had met something new, something stubborn, something that refused to be erased. It had met humans, and this time, it wouldn't be quiet for long. The ship moved slowly, carefully. Through the strange dark cloud, everything felt wrong, like the very space around them was sick. The crew of the HSS Resolute stayed alert, eyes wide, fingers on controls. Captain Derek Moore stood in silence, watching the strange shadows outside the ship. They had rescued survivors from the broken alien vessel, but something or someone was still out there. And it was coming. Suddenly, the alarms blared. Unidentified objects approaching fast. Shouted Benji, the pilot. From where? Asked Derek. Everywhere. Out of the dark, black ships appeared. Not like anything in the database. No lights, no symbols, just sharp and silent. They didn't send a message, didn't identify themselves. They just opened fire. A blue beam of energy sliced across space, hitting the shield of the Resolute. The entire ship shook violently, shields at 60%. Kara yelled from engineering, "Return fire." Moore ordered Mia, the weapons officer, didn't wait. She locked on and fired railgun rounds directly at the nearest enemy ship. The shot hit, but the enemy didn't explode. Instead, it broke apart like liquid metal and reformed. "What the hell?" whispered Elena, watching the screen. "These things. They're not ships," she said slowly. "They're alive." The black vessels moved like predators, fast and smart. They didn't attack like a normal fleet. They circled, tested, waited. And when they struck again, it was with perfect timing. One enemy beam hit the alien refugee ship being towed by the Resolute. The Tayari vessel cracked open in space, spinning away. Captain Moore didn't hesitate. "Get them off that ship now," he shouted. Benji took a shuttle and launched into the firefight, flying through lasers and explosions. Raj and 2 Marines went with him. Inside the alien ship, they found the Tayari mother shielding her child from smoke and fire. Raj picked up the child while the Marines helped the others. They raced back just in time before the alien ship exploded behind them. Back on the Resolute, Elena noticed something strange on the screen. She zoomed in on one of the enemy ships. There were symbols scratched into the metal, ancient and glowing faintly. She gasped. "I've seen these before," she said. "In the Tayari's memory crystals. These are silence war codes." "That means this is not a random attack," Moore said. "They knew we were coming." The battle wasn't going well. The Resolute had strong weapons, but they were being outnumbered and surrounded. Derek knew what he had to do. "Divert power from life support to weapons," he ordered. "Everything we've got now." Kara hesitated only a second, then slammed her hand on the console. The lights flickered. The air turned colder, but the weapons glowed brighter than ever before. Mia fired the main cannon at the center of the enemy group. This time, the blast hit so hard that one of the black ships shattered completely. The explosion was massive, sending pieces spinning in every direction. The other enemy ships paused, confused. That was the first time something had destroyed them, Captain. Elena said, "I think they're retreating." The black ships began to pull back, slowly vanishing into the shadows again. Silence returned. But it wasn't peaceful. It was like the moment after a predator disappears into the trees. Everyone knew it would come back. The crew didn't celebrate. They moved quickly to check for injuries and damage. The ship was scarred, deep burns across the hull, one engine damaged, and life support running low. But they were alive. In the medbay, Raj treated wounded Tayari. The child Elena had saved held her hand tightly, not speaking, just staring. "You were brave," Elena whispered. The child blinked slowly, then whispered back, "You are different." The Tayari elders told them more about the silence. They explained that the silence was not just an army, it was like a disease that used machines as its body. Once it reached a world, it erased its voice, its memories, and its future. No one had ever fought back and survived, until now. Captain Moore called a crew meeting. "We came here to answer a call for help," he said, "but now we know what's out here. And if this thing reaches Earth or Mars, it won't stop until nothing is left." Some crew members looked scared, others angry, but one by one, they nodded. They would not turn back. Derek sent a coded message to Earth Command. The video showed the battle, the enemy ships, the wounded Tayari, and the crew fighting together. He ended with one sentence. "This is no longer just a rescue, it's war." Back on Earth, the message shook the council. Some leaders panicked. Others demanded retreat. But Admiral Nina Brooks stood before them and said clearly, "We sent the Resolute to answer a cry for help, and they just made first contact with something that threatens every living thing. So we have two choices," she said. "Run or rise." The next morning, orders were sent. More ships would follow, more crews would join. Humanity would no longer stay silent, and far in the galaxy, in a dark place with no stars, the silence watched the humans with curiosity. They had expected weakness, fear, surrender, but instead, they saw resistance. They saw something new, something dangerous. They saw humans on Earth. Everything had changed. The message from Captain Derek Moore spread like fire through news channels and military networks. People who had never cared about space now watched the stars with fear and wonder. They had seen the alien ships, the fire, the Tayari refugees, and most importantly, they saw humans fighting something no one understood and surviving. Some called the crew of the HSS Resolute heroes. Others called them fools, saying they were bringing danger back to Earth. The Galactic Council, made of powerful alien races, held a secret meeting. They had heard the same message. Most of them said the same thing: do not get involved. One council leader, a reptilian diplomat, even said, "Let the silence take them. It's better than risking our own species." But Earth refused to stay quiet. At the United Earth Command building, Admiral Nina Brooks stood before military leaders and colony governors. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Humanity has a choice," she said. "Step back and wait, or step forward and lead." Her words hit hard. Volunteers flooded the recruitment centers. Veterans from old wars signed up again. Colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan offered ships, fuel, and supplies. Even small space stations sent whatever they could. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone felt the same thing. This is our fight too. Admiral Brooks gave the order, "Send reinforcements." 3 new ships were selected to join the Resolute. The HSS Valor, a heavy cruiser with advanced shields. The HSS Titan, a ship built for boarding and rescue missions. And the HSS Warden, a warship with long-range missiles and drones. Each ship needed a captain, and they had to be the best. The Valor would be led by Alex Rivera, Mare's old friend and second in command. The Titan would be led by Captain Briel Hayes, known for saving over 200 civilians during a station fire. The Warden was assigned to Captain Noah Blake, a quiet man who once took down 5 pirate ships alone. Now humanity had a small fleet, not big, not perfect, but ready. They called it Task Force Dawn. On the Resolute, Captain Moore received the message, "Reinforcements inbound. You are now Task Force Commander." He didn't smile, didn't cheer. He just nodded. "About time," he said. The new ships met the Resolute near a safe moon in Tayari space. The reunion between Moore and Alex Rivera was short but full of respect. "Didn't think you'd ever come back to command," Rivera said. "I didn't plan to," Moore replied. "But we don't always get to choose." They gathered in the command room to plan their next move. The Tayari survivors gave them coordinates, places where other refugee ships might be hiding. They also warned of silence-held space, a growing region where no signal or ship ever returned. Captain Moore stood before the holomap and said, "If we don't stop this thing now, it'll reach the core worlds in a year. By then, it's too late." They couldn't win with weapons alone. They needed knowledge, something that could help them understand and weaken the silence. Elena, who had been studying Tayari tech and language nonstop, brought forward a strange crystal. "This is a memory core," she said. "It holds something important, maybe the original data on how the silence began. But it couldn't be opened easily. They needed time, and time was not on their side. Still, Moore decided they would act. Their first mission: rescue a Tayari science vessel trapped near the silence border. If they could get that ship, it might hold the missing piece of information they needed. The fleet moved as 4 ships, 4 captains, and 1 goal. As they neared the target area, strange readings appeared again. "Distortions," said Rivara. "Like space itself is broken." Suddenly, the ships were pulled out of warp. Enemy vessels surrounded them, dark, silent, and fast. The silence had found them first. The battle was chaos. Missiles flew. Energy beams blasted through shields. Drones launched from the Warden and exploded. Against black armor, the Titan dropped its boarding crew to protect the Tayari vessel. The Valor took several direct hits and lost half its shield power. But humans fought like fire. They didn't run. They didn't hide. Captain Moore flew the Resolute straight into the enemy formation. He ordered all guns to fire at once. The blast broke through the silence line, giving the Titan a path to escape with the science ship. On the Warden, Captain Blake gave the command to launch the Omega Strike, a forbidden missile armed with an unstable fusion core. It exploded in the middle of the enemy ships, destroying 4 at once, and shaking even the human fleet. By the time the battle ended, the space around them was full of wreckage. Smoke and silence returned, but this time, it was their silence. Not the enemies. They had saved the Tayari vessel. They had survived a full-scale assault, and most of all, they had won. Elena held the new data chip from the rescued ship. It glowed faintly, humming with ancient code. "I think this might be it," she said quietly. "The key to ending them." Captain Moore looked out at the stars. This wasn't the end, not even close. But for the first time, they had hope, and in the distance, something watched them. The silence had taken thousands of worlds, but now, it had found something it had never seen before. Something that fought back. Something called humans. The stars around them were quiet. But the silence didn't bring peace. It felt like the space itself was holding its breath, waiting for something. The human fleet HS Resolute, Valor, Titan, and Warden had just won a major battle, but no one on board was celebrating. They knew it was only the beginning. In the command room of the Resolute, Captain Derek Moore stood before a glowing display. The Tayari science ship they had rescued was now docked safely. Inside it was something they hoped could change everything. A memory core full of ancient data. Elena, tired but determined, was working non-stop to translate it. "There's a location," she finally said, pointing at the screen. It was a Tayari stronghold, a research station. "Before the silence took it, it's still there," she continued. "But it's under siege." Derek didn't wait. "If it's still standing, we're going to get them out." The fleet began moving again, deeper into the silence-held zone. As they flew, the ships passed destroyed satellites, wrecked cruisers, and drifting bodies, all signs of battles long lost. Everyone felt a chill, but no one said a word. They were heading straight into the heart of danger. As they approached the planet, the screens showed what looked like a battlefield in the sky. The Tayari station was still there, but barely. Its outer ring had been damaged, fire still burning inside, and around it flew black silent ships like sharks around a bleeding whale. "We go in hard," said Captain Alex Rivera of the Valor. "We punch through the blockade, and the Titan sends down Marines." The fleet broke formation and charged forward. The sky lit up with energy beams and railed in fire. The Warden's drones danced between enemy fire, shooting down 2 attackers before vanishing into debris. The Resolute's main cannon fired again and again, each shot slamming into the dark. Ships, inside the Titan. Captain Breel Hayes led the boarding team. They entered drop pod's small metal balls with thrusters and launched straight toward the burning station. Inside her pod, Breel's voice came through the comms calm and sharp. Marines, listen up. Get in, find survivors, hold your ground. We're not leaving anyone behind. The drop pods slammed into the station, breaking through damaged walls. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the smell of melted metal. The Marines moved room by room, clearing paths and shouting for survivors. They found them, weak Tayari scientists hiding in sealed chambers, some wounded, some holding children. But they also found something else. A chamber filled with strange machines not made by the Tayari. Elena, watching from the Resolute, gasped when she saw the video. That's silence tech, she whispered. But it's not active. Captain Moore gave the order. Secure it. Bring it all back. While the Marines worked below, the battle above grew worse. More enemy ships warped in silent, cold, and without fear. The Valor's shields dropped below 30%. The Warden took a hit that tore open its lower decks. Captain Noah Blake stayed calm, giving quiet orders to seal the damage and keep firing. Suddenly, something new appeared. A massive silent ship, larger than anything seen before. It was shaped like a black spider, with arms that stretched across kilometers. The Resolute's sensors went wild, unable to scan it properly. It's jamming everything, Benji said. I can't even get readings. Alina stared at it, wide-eyed. It's not just a ship. It's a mind. The silent ship sent out a pulse blue, glowing, humming with strange power. Across the fleet, systems started to flicker. Screens went black for a few seconds. The silence was trying to erase them, but Kara, down in engineering, had prepared for this. She slammed a red switch, activating a backup shield built from Tayari tech. The Resolute held firm. The pulse failed. Captain Moore stood tall. We fire everything. Aim for the center. The fleet joined together, launching missiles, plasma bolts, and railgun rounds. One of the Warden's long-range nukes hit the silent ship dead center. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. When the light faded, the black ship was still there, but it was wounded. The station's survivors had been rescued. The data had been secured. The Titan called for retreat. Mission complete. We have them, said Breel, her voice proud but tired. The fleet turned and began to leave, but not without sending a final message. The Resolute turned back and fired one last shot, blowing a hole in the side of the spider-shaped ship. A clear signal. We're not afraid. Back on board. Elena opened the new data crystal from the station. Her eyes widened. This is it, she whispered. It tells where the silence came from and how to stop them. Everyone gathered around as she showed the map. A star system long lost, buried in legend. The place where the first silence was born. Captain Moore looked at the glowing map, then at his crew. They were tired, wounded, and far from home, but their eyes were full of fire. This wasn't just about one rescue anymore. This was about the future of the galaxy. We're going in, he said, and this time, we finish it. Far away, in the cold dark, the wounded silent ship watched the humans escape. It did not scream. It did not chase. It simply waited and started to learn, because for the first time in 1,000 years, it had been hurt, and the ones who heard it were human. Back on Earth, the mood was changing. People no longer watched the news just with fear. They watched with hope. Humanity had faced the unknown and survived. They had stood beside aliens, rescued lives, and even hurt the enemy that everyone else feared. But Earth's leaders knew it wasn't over. They knew something worse was coming. In the skies above Europa, a massive station monitored the edge of human space. That's where it happened. A strange ripple moved through space like a silent shockwave. All screens glitched, lights flickered, and half the satellites went dark in seconds. Moments later, long black ships appeared from deep space. Ships that didn't send signals, didn't answer hails. They just opened fire. The orbital ring around Europa exploded in a storm of fire. People screamed as debris rained down on the colony below. One of the main towers collapsed, killing hundreds instantly. Earth Command received the alert. Europa is under attack. Silence confirmed. Requesting help now. Admiral Nina Brooke stood frozen for just a moment. Then she gave the order, activate every defense system. Scramble all ships, we hold the line. Earth lit up, spaceports came alive, defense cannons charged. Old warships were pulled from hangars and rushed into space. Pilots ran through the halls, grabbing helmets, powering up engines. This was no longer just a mission far away. This was home, back in deep space. The HSS Resolute and its fleet had just finished repairs. Elena was still working with the Tyari data, trying to find a weakness. That's when the message came in from Earth. Europa attacked. Silence has reached human space. Everyone went quiet. Captain Derek Moore looked at his crew. There was no doubt what they would do. Set course for Earth, he said. Maximum speed. The fleet jumped into warp, engines roaring, space bending around them. They didn't know what they would find when they arrived, but they were ready. Humanity was not going to let another world fall. As they neared Earth, they saw it. The sky around the planet was filled with fire, ships, and destruction. Silence vessels were everywhere, attacking stations, blocking communication lines. Earth's defense grid was fighting back hard, but it wasn't enough. The Resolute joined the battle without hesitation. Its cannons lit up the void, smashing into enemy ships. The Warden launched drones that formed walls of fire, protecting civilian vessels trying to escape. The Valor took heavy hits but refused to retreat, holding the right flank to cover the others. And the Titan sent teams to pull survivors off damaged stations. Captain Moore stood at the front of the bridge, giving orders calmly but firmly. We don't let them land, he said. We don't let them spread. Elena rushed into the control room, holding a datapad. I found something, she said breathlessly. There's a frequency hidden in their code as signal they use to talk to each other. Captain Moore stared at her. You think we can interrupt it? I think we can turn it against them, she said. We have to try. They uploaded the signal into the Resolute's main system and broadcast it wide. A strange hum filled the ship, then echoed through space. The silence vessels paused just for a second, and that second was enough. Human warships targeted the frozen ships and fired all at once. 5 enemy ships exploded in one moment. The rest pulled back, confused, as if something inside them had changed. The trick didn't last forever. Soon, the silence adapted, but they had been slowed, and that gave humanity the edge it needed. The final part of the battle took place above Earth's atmosphere. The largest silent ship had moved into low orbit, preparing to fire a weapon that could destroy an entire continent. It had to be stopped. Captain Moore knew it would cost something. He looked at his crew, then spoke quietly into the comms. Prepare the main cannon. We'll need full power. Divert everything. Kara hesitated, then nodded and began the override. The ship's lights dimmed. Life support dropped to minimum. Even the gravity failed. Everything went into that one cannon. Target locked, said Mia, voice steady. Fire, said Moore. The cannon burst with light, shooting a beam straight through the silent ship. It pierced the enemy's core, causing a chain reaction. The massive vessel exploded, shaking the sky and sending out a shockwave. People across Earth saw it and cheered. The Silence Fleet began to retreat, some destroyed, some vanishing into warp space. It wasn't total victory, but it was a clear message. Earth would not fall. After the battle, ships landed all across Earth to help with recovery. The fleet docked near the moon base. People came out to see the heroes, the brave ones who had come back to save their home. Elena walked with the Tyari child beside her. Holding her hand, Kara was fixing broken power lines like it was just another day. Rivera sat with wounded Marines, making sure they were fed and safe. and Captain Moore stood by the window, watching the stars. His face was tired but strong. "We stopped them," Elena said softly. "For now," he replied. "But we both know this isn't over." Elena nodded. "I decoded more from the core," she said. "There's a place farther out than anything we've ever gone. It's where the silence started." Captain Moore looked up at the stars. His voice was low but clear. "Then that's where we go next. Far beyond even human sensors, something moved, something old. Deep and angry, it had seen what the humans did, and for the first time in thousands of years, it knew fear.